This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Thank you for rejoining us. And we have a very special guest for you today, ladies and gentlemen. We have Coach Carl Kremer, who's been coaching for Moeller High School basketball for 36 years. He's joining us today to talk about Miles McBride, give us a little bit of a backstory on Deuce and, talk about what he thinks he might be able to do in the NBA. So let's get down to business. Coach Kremer, it is an honor to be here with you. I've been just doing some research, and I looked at your bio, and you've been coaching the Crusaders for 36 years. 36 years. 601 wins, 158 losses. You've won the Greater Catholic League Championship 23 out of the past 27 years. You've led the Crusaders to 8 city championships, 1994, 2004, 2008, 2014, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 15 district championships, 8 regional championships, you 1 state Final Four, 2 state runner-up finishes. You've done it all as a coach. So it is really an honor to be here speaking with you and be able to sap up some basketball knowledge from you. I just want to give you a chance to say hi to everyone who's listening and anything that you want to say to open up. It's your floor.
Thank you for that. That's a little more than deserved. In a really great school, Cincinnati Moeller High School, all-boy Catholic high school, is a great environment to coach in. But I'm honored to be on this. Anytime I can talk about Miles. Miles McBride is just really one of the great kids that in those 36 years that we've ever had, and thrilled that I really believe in my heart he's going to have a great career with New York.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, before we even get into Miles, I'm looking at a list here of players that came from Moeller who's been drafted into the NBA. And, there's a very healthy list. And Jackson Hayes is one of them who you mentioned when we were off air. Do you have an idea of exactly how many kids you've coached who's been drafted?
Yeah, actually, Simeon, that's it. In fact, we've had about 60 to 70 Division I players in my career, and good Division I players, but really never had a guy get close to the NBA until Jackson Hayes did it. And he's an incredible story in and of itself. He never started for us until the senior year.
Wow.
He had an offer from Kentucky before he started for us. He was such a late developer, and he's an amazing kid in his own right. I won't go there. And then Miles, and again, he's a kid that really did not get the accolades, wasn't recruited as highly as he should have been, had an injury from football, and people didn't know about him. And I agree, even in college, I'm watching what he's doing for West Virginia, which I thought was a lot. I thought he held that team together and made them good. And for whatever reason, there were some questions. And I think the Knicks, and I don't know when it's going to happen. Miles will be patient, and there's some great players in front of him. But I'm telling you, Miles is going to be a great pro. It's just he's built to do it. He has the right attitude.
Yeah, Coach, when did you know that he was special?
It was pretty quick. His older brother played for us, so he was around a lot. And when he came in as a freshman, again, what impressed me was the built-in humility that the kid had. He was clearly the best player in the city, But and you like he's that rare kid who has the confidence, but has this humility also mixed with it. And I knew he could handle playing varsity as a freshman, and the weight of that would not hold back his development. So I really thought early he could. And by his sophomore year, he leads us to an undefeated season. We get beat in the state finals by one. Junior year, he's hurt the entire year because of football. And guys, he would have been an incredible quarterback. I mean, he would have been, I mean, he could have easily been that way. I'm not glad he got hurt in football, but I'm not upset about it either. So
I was going to ask that question.
I teased him about that a little bit. But we don't have him that whole season. We did have a great team with Jackson and Jeremiah Davenport. He plays for UC Bearcats now. And he comes back the last two games, and it shocked us the doctors let him play. It was incredible. And the kid really had no time to prepare, and he came out and played great in the semifinals and the state finals. And then the next year with him, and again, he only took about 13 shots a game. It's not like he was trying to get big numbers. He only averaged about 15 points a game his senior year because we really never had a close game. And the kid's totally humble. He would go get you what you needed, but he wasn't trying to be, the leading score guy. And a guy who got player of the year in the state of Ohio took about 40 shots a game and averaged about 40. But Miles was that special kid. So I really think he's special, and I think he proved that at West Virginia. I know that Huggs believes that he got a special guy in Miles.
Yeah, and what I want to do, Coach, is just kind of I'm just gonna kind of go around, and we'll take turns asking some questions, have good conversations. I want to ask one more question, and then I'm gonna pass it over to Josh, and then we can go to Guillermo and Andy. Miles did an interview the other day, and he spoke about Kemba Walker, and Derrick Rose. And he said, with Derrick Rose, he can recognize that he uses his burst of speed to get past players, his explosion. With Kemba Walker, Kemba uses angles to get by players and get into the paint. And I just thought it was uncanny and very observative of a young player coming into the league. Is this something that he's always shown?
Yeah, 100%. And again, the humility to know these are great guys. I'm not saying he's trying to learn from them rather than prove how great he is right now. That is so much who Miles is as a person. And yet, trust me, he's very confident that he can copy those things and learn from those guys. He believes deeply in himself, but that doesn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah. It was just, when I heard it, I was like, wow, young players normally just don't have that type of intuitiveness about the basketball game. They come in kind of green, and that's someone to me who's watching and learning and observing and has an open mind, and it's great to see because you're playing behind two great point guards and great point guards in the NBA. Josh, I'm going to pass it to you, man.
What's going on? How you doing, Coach? Thank you for joining us. Absolutely a pleasure to be sitting here to talk about Deuce. I'm definitely a big fan. I'm hoping that he does some big things this season. My question is about his development process from high school to West Virginia and now on the Knicks. Is there anything specifically that you can narrow it down that you can say he definitely improved from one level to the next that you can see him doing the same in the NBA?
Yeah, I would say, Josh, that's a great question. If I had one concern early, it would be Miles shooting the basketball. He always made big shots. In fact, his senior year in the tournament, his senior year in high school, he shot 65% from the three. He had shot about 40 all year. And if you were to look at big games, look when he's at West Virginia. He always played better. But I didn't think his shot was mechanically perfect. And I would tell you that he has put countless hours. When he comes home now, Miles has a key to our gym. I don't mess it. You get in the gym whenever you want. He gets a key. Not everybody gets a key to the gym.
Right.
But I'm telling you, he lives in our gym when he comes home. He is really, and I think, become a very good shooter. I thought in the summer league he shot the ball He shot the ball very well. I think he has developed that. I don't think that's natural. His older brother is a good player. He's playing overseas, and probably what kept Trey from being a Division I kid in college. He wasn't a great shooter either. I'm not even sure his dad, Walt, when he played at Xavier, was a great shooter. Miles has made himself, I think, a really good shooter. And then those other qualities are God-given, I think.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Great. Yeah, Gmo, jump in there, man.
Yeah, man, I'm just cheesing. Nice to have you, Coach. I'm just happy that he's here because I watched this guy. I was watching other prospects along the road, but every game you look up and Miles McBride was shutting down, giving trouble to guys like Davion, Kate Cunningham. He shut down a guy. I was high on Trey Mann. He actually changed my whole opinion on him when I watched him. But I want to talk about the recruiting process because there are a lot of prospects that they have the talent, but many times they go to the wrong school. And with a guy like Miles McBride, now he got recruited by Akron, a lot of area schools, Kent, I believe, Ohio, Miami, Ohio as well. If you could just talk about the recruiting process with Bob Huggins, understandably so, Bob is a defensive coach, so it may have been a match made in heaven. But if you could just talk about the recruiting process, if there are any notes you can share with us from what Bob told you, how he saw the kid, essentially, if you could just talk about the process in itself.
Yeah, so I would tell you I was at the state coaches clinic in Ohio 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Coach Huggins spoke, and somebody asked him about recruiting Miles. And so in front of 1,000 Ohio coaches, he tells a story that, there's nothing really fancy. And it's kind of true. He asked me if he's good enough to play, and I told him he's the second toughest kid I ever coached, and he offered him. Here's the thing. So Miles coming out of his freshman year for us was kind of getting on people's radar. And we've been blessed to have a lot of college basketball players. And so going into a sophomore year, that summer before sophomore year, he was starting to get recruited by a lot of people. And then he played so well a sophomore year. Now UC was involved. Ohio State was really good. And that was his dream school, Ohio State. His mom was an athlete at Ohio State. That's where his heart really was. Xavier was involved. The big schools were getting involved. And I'm kind of surprised he didn't get offers before his junior year. But in September of his junior year, he had that really severe injury in football. It was a Liz Frank, if you're familiar with what that is. And I don't tell him, that's a pretty severe injury. And he got that. And so all the schools that called me said, we love him. We know he's a winner, but we're going to wait and see how he does off of that foot injury. Well, in the middle of that, he took a visit to West Virginia. And he called me in West Virginia and said, Coach, I want to commit. And I said, no, never commit while you're there. Come home. Let's let it simmer for a while. And then a week later, he said, hey, Coach, I want to commit. And I talked to his dad, and they wanted to do it. And I talked to Hugs. I said, Hugs, there's sometimes, the recruiting game. Some coaches want you to hold that off a little bit. They'll make the offer, but they're not ready. I'd say, Carl, if you're vouching for, I said, Hugs, I know this in my heart. You'll never regret taking it. It's like I'm telling you guys, but I just knew that in my heart. This kid will never disappoint you. And Hugs took him. And then it was maybe 2 weeks he was on campus. Eric Martin, one of Hugs' assistants, played at UC. Eric's calling me up saying, oh, my God, you said he was good. He's better. And I said, and when you're with him every day, you get to know. That's when you really get to know it because he's the same kid every day. So, right. Yeah, that's kind of how it happened. It wasn't a big, sexy recruitment. I think there are a lot of people kicking themselves. And I've had guys tell me how, God, we blew that. He was injured. I get it. You only get 3 or 4 of those scholarships, but Hugs had the guts to do it. So
yeah. Before I get to Andy, Coach, before he was drafted to the Knicks, did you hear from Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau? Did they call you up to ask you any questions about his character and his work ethic and those type of things?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I probably had a dozen teams call me, and I don't remember the Knicks calling. I know that Miles knew that there was an interest there, so I don't know how that was. He had told me the Knicks were a team that he thought perhaps, but I had a lot of teams call and spend a fair amount of time with me, but I don't think the Knicks were one of them.
Okay,
Wow.
so they,
Okay.
they must have
Yeah.
did their homework and
Yeah.
got that information another way. I'm glad
It-
I'm glad they made the move they made because
It's in the fact that I mean, I've been in high school my whole life. I know about this much what it takes to be in the NBA. I don't know much about the NBA, and I'll be the first to admit. Even when Miles came to me and he was thinking last spring, should I leave? I said, Miles, I just, I can help you on recruiting in college. I've been through that for many years. The pro thing's a whole different thing for me, and I don't know people in that area. So what I know is you got to get to some people that do know, and you got to get some good advice to make this decision. And I think he did make the right decision. Although Hugs is telling me with NIL he could have made more money in West Virginia, but I didn't buy that.
yeah, Andy, you want to jump in there, and guys, just feel free to jump in with your question. You don't have to wait for me.
Yeah, coach. First thing I wanted to congratulate you on the basketball record because that's an awesome accomplishment on its own. The numbers are outstanding. Just the season of 29-0. That's something that rarely happens. But I'm also happy with what you said about him not being a high volume shooter, more of a high efficient basketball player. That's how we Knicks fans, and I hope his current coach Tibbs will like him to play more efficient than just taking those amount of shots. But my question would be, did he had any kind of ego on the court when he was playing in high school? Because he probably was one of the better players on your squad. But as you said, you guys had an awesome team with an awesome record. Sometimes that situation causes players to try to stand out, not be more of a team player, just more egocentric, right?
Yeah. Andy, that's what I think makes him special. No, I mean, I really think he is an insanely confident kid. I believe Miles believes he can play with anybody. I think he really, and by God, you better have that belief when you're playing at this level, the 300 best players in the world. But he has a humility and an understanding about team and his ego being in check. Again, guys, I think he would have loved to be the Mr. Basketball in the state of Ohio, but in a season where we really pretty easily beat everyone we played, he never forced the issue of scoring. He really took care of all his teammates, and you know what? I never had to have that conversation with him. That was a natural thing on his part. I mean, and when we needed it, he went and got us points and won. I think that's where I find him so different than almost anyone else I've ever coached. He really is about winning. He's a great human being. I would tell you, this community here, he had called me and said, Coach, I want to do the draft at Moeller. And, because his family was here, I was nothing against West Virginia, but he wanted to come home and do the draft. And we knew if we'd opened it up, we'd have had thousands of people because they love this kid. There's something about him. And I can even see it with you guys. There's something about him that draws, you kind of see the kid he is, and he draws you to him. Well, that night we limited who we invited. It was only teammates from 3 or 4 years and then people from his grade school parish that he went to. So we had about 300 people here in our gym to watch that. And again, we could have had way more than that, than those 300 or 400. And I'm telling you, I've watched other kids handle this. As we're waiting for him to be drafted and it's going pick by pick, he worked that room like he was a groom at a wedding reception, saying hello to everybody who was there. The kid gets it. I saw him hugging grade school teachers, and his grade school coaches were there. I mean, he and again, this comes from his family, right? He's got an incredible mom and dad who get it. And that's why I think you put him in a team. If he has to wait 3 years, 4 years for the Knicks, he'll wait that long and he'll do it the right way. If he's called on early, he'll be ready for that. I truly believe it.
Coach, I do want to follow up with that. I know you said that, he kind of picked and choose when he was able to go out and get some points for you. But for the most part, he was all team oriented. That was going to be my next question. Was it, mostly the fact that, you let him kind of do him? He was a great basketball player. You let him do him, or was mostly everything in the confines of the offense? But you pretty much answered that question already.
Yeah. we've been doing a long time, so there's a system to how we play, and I think he always respected that. I just think he had a respect for the guys when he was young, the older guys he played with. He had a respect for them. And yet at the same time, that sophomore year of his, that we get against a really well-coached, tough team, and we were having trouble scoring. He just sensed it and said, I'm going to take over. And he almost single-handedly won us that game, the one game he lost in high school. I did. It's just who the kid is. He just was unusual. I know that. I've got 5 assistant coaches. We got a lot of guys here. We were able to do a program kind of unusual for high school. And I remember we would look at each other afterwards and just say, let's not take for granted what we are experiencing right now. This is really an incredible group of guys. But make no mistake, from his freshman year, Miles was the leader. No doubt about it.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask real quick about his defensive abilities, because let me not speak in hyperbole, but when I watched Miles McBride in college, one of my favorite defenders came to mind. I'm not saying he's there yet, but Tony Allen is one of my favorite on-ball defenders. And I've watched McBride in college, and in the summer league, he showed in the last game against Shreve Cooper. Who developed that defensive intensity in Miles McBride? Was that a team thing where you teach that, or was that from his father who played in college? Because the guy Miles McBride is almost like, there's certain people who can play defense, and there's certain people who they live by it. Like a steal or a shutdown is just as important as a point to them. So I just want to know, where did he get that foundation defensively from?
I'd like to claim that, but I think that'd be a bit of a stretch. I think it does come from his dad. His brother was very similar, the same way. It's that anticipation and the cleverness. He would bait guys into bad pay. He would just bait them into making the wrong move. And it would be fun for us to watch. That's when we knew. And you can imagine in high school, he literally was just taking the ball from people. And maybe if you ever want this, I'll put together a string of tape that just steals that he made in high school that will make you guys laugh. He just was. He really has that special thing that you don't coach, I don't think. But his dad was a tough dude now, and his dad's a tough dude now. So now his little cousin is playing for our varsity this year. He's going to be a good player too. I'm not saying he's Miles, but he's going to be a good player.
I was looking on Max Preps, and I saw his older brother, and I seen another McBride. I said, wait a minute, there's another McBride coming up. So okay, you answered that. That's his cousin. All right,
the kind of guy that keeps an old guy like me from retiring for a few years. It's a lot more fun to coach when you have good players.
Right.
But can I ask you one more question on that? So when he does come back home, do you still kind of, because it seems like he obviously holds you in high esteem. So when he comes back and he's shooting around, do you give him any pointers, say, hey, you could do this? You talked about his shooting, but you talked about him working on that on his own. So when he comes back home, I'm pretty sure you seem to continue to watch tape on him. Do you give him any pointers, any tips, or do you still coach him up, or you just allow him to do what he's been doing?
Really not too much. Actually, since he's been at West Virginia, I think coaches try to stay away from coaching when I know about 1/100th of what Tom Thibodeau knows, and same with Hug. So I don't really try to coach him much, but we do talk about life a lot, and I tried to talk to him a little bit about even how to approach living in New York City and being smart about decisions he makes. And but again, I don't even have to. I think he lets me ramble a little bit. But I do feel blessed that he and I are pretty close, and I'm close to his family, and feel lucky that I'm part of his life.
Yeah, that part of it never goes away, huh?
That's right.
That part,
never goes away. Never goes away.
Yeah, I'm glad you're having that conversation with him about being and playing in New York City. I don't think he's going to have an issue with it at all. Just from what we've seen from him so far, and I think, Coach, you kind of alluded to it earlier. That everyone seems to like him, and I can just tell you from my perspective, just when I see him, he's humble when you hear him speak and talk to reporters and things like that. He's very humble, but then he's tenacious on the floor, right?
Yes.
And I love that in a player.
Yes.
You know, just humble and then tenacious, and can give you the things that you're looking for, and is willing to kind of be, you know, an amoeba type of player. Say, hey, I'm going to give you whatever you need. I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to give it to you 100%. And I think New York fans everywhere, that's exactly what they want in a player. And, you know, he's bringing that. But looking at this year's team, and, you know, we talked about it a little bit, he's playing behind some guards. Kemba Walker, Derrick Rose, even in this, you know, you got Emmanuel Quickly in that second unit, who's playing, you know, some, you know, point guard / shooting guard or hybrid guard type of position. What do you think he would need to do this season to crack that lineup with the Knicks? And I don't know how much you have really followed the Knicks, but, you know, just knowing some of the names and, you know, that's out there, what do you think he would need to do to crack the lineup?
Well, my first favorite team, this is as old as I am, this goes back a long time ago, were the 1973 Knicks. That was my first favorite team. So I'm pretty excited he's with the Knicks. Now, I've had favorite teams. We don't have one in Cincinnati, so I pick who's ever good at different times. But, you know, that's hard for me, to be honest with you, because I don't know enough about the NBA game, and I do respect. I mean, those names of guys are in front of them. You know, and those are great proven players. I would tell you my conversations with him on those guys were, you know, you make sure you learn from those guys, and you make sure that you will get your opportunity will come. It does for everybody. He's in a position, he will get an opportunity. Don't know when it's going to be. Just be ready then. And be the best, whatever role you're in, be the best in that role, and good things will happen. Again, I don't have to say this to Miles because I think he's just naturally geared to that. But, yeah, I have no idea. I mean, you guys know the pro game much better than I do. I just have total belief in the kid that when the opportunity comes, and it may not be this year. I mean, it may or may not, but I think when it comes, people are going to like him. And I actually am glad he's somewhere where he gets to learn the professional game from people. And I don't know Tom Thibodeau. I don't know how you guys feel. I don't know him, but as a coach, I like watching his teams. I think they're hard-nosed and good, and I want to see Miles in that kind of system.
So, given the fact that now he's on the NBA level, and just to correct you, Coach, he will be getting minutes this year. Let's not. He's never going to play this year. I'm sure of that, but I mean, given the fact that he's gone up to his level, and granted, the more success he gets on an NBA level, obviously it does, you know, it speaks well of his upbringing, obviously the school. Like, do you use him as like an icon, or like the paradigm now that you want your point guards or guards coming in to kind of follow, or is it still a very strict how you coach, and you know, it doesn't matter that Miles successful, we're going to coach this way, or are you trying to develop maybe the new generation of guys coming up to kind of follow his path?
Look, I bring Miles up all the time. We're really big in the core values. We have 4 core values that dictate how we do everything, how we select our team, how we travel, how we do. You know, that to us, that is really important, the culture that you develop, even in a high school program. And Miles is such a great example of all of our core values. Trust me, the guys here are sick of me talking about Miles in our core values, just as Miles was sick about all the guys he had to hear about before then. So we have a big thing that we tell our guys, hey, drink the water. Just remember he dug the well. And for our program, Miles McBride is a guy who dug that well. So all of our guys from here on through, trust me, Miles McBride will be a big part of our program.
So Coach, are you now, you know, you said the Knicks were one of your favorite teams, or your first favorite team. Are you back being a Knicks fan?
There is no doubt about that. No doubt about that. I still like the old Dave DeBusschere and Walt Frazier. In fact, I told Miles that he reminded me a little bit of Walt Frazier. But I remember those days. But I am a much bigger Knicks fan now. Even my 87-year-old mom calls me in the summer and tells me, Carl, I'm watching Miles McBride. I love the NBA Summer League. Well, you don't even know what the NBA Summer League is. But I'm telling you, I think the ratings were high in Cincinnati. Everybody was watching Miles. Trust me, he is a beloved kid.
Yeah, that's great. Do you anticipate him coming back and maybe doing some, doing some camps and things like that? And I'm sure maybe even having a chance to come back to the school and maybe help with some practices there or something like that. Do you anticipate that?
Yeah, and that's the thing to me. Like, he's home. He never misses coming by, and he will talk to our guys. Like, he never misses doing that. He comes back, and he doesn't have to do that. He owes us nothing, but he has kind of that old school loyalty. He buys into the concept of family, and yeah, we've already talked. He and Jackson both are going to do a camp for us next year. We don't know how it's going to look, but we've already talked about doing that next year.
Oh, that should be great. Looking forward to it. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Coach, I know you had a long day. You had open gym. You had things you had to deal with. At the school. I want to give the guys a chance. If you have any last comments or questions, Coach, if you have anything that you'd like to end this with, but I'll let you guys get in and ask any last questions first, and then we'll let Coach run and get home because I know, it's that time of day. Josh, I'll start with you. Any last comments or questions?
No last comments or questions. I'm just anxious to see the kid play. I know he's going to definitely get a lot of time tonight during the game against the Pacers in preseason, and I definitely think he's going to get some time this season too. So just thank you for coming on, Coach. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.
All right. Chimo?
No more other questions for me, Coach. Thank you for coming on, for validating everything I said about the kid. Like I said, I'm a genius when it comes to stuff like Miles McBride. So I'm just happy that you're here to validate. I'm only joking, but no. I'm extremely happy that he's here. I was ecstatic that he got drafted, and everything you said just makes it seem. It's almost like it doesn't seem real how grounded and hardworking the kid was even since then. You have guys in AAU who come in who just uber talented. The kid, hard nosed, hard worker. Puts his head down, works hard, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do for the Knicks. I think he's going to still minutes this year, but I'm gonna be patient on that. Now, whenever he plays, he'll play. So thank you for coming on, Coach.
But Coach,
I think you're a basketball genius. Yeah.
Why did you do that,
guys?
Sim's gonna have to cut that out, Coach.
Yeah,
please, Coach, you'll make me cry, Coach. Please, Andy, please go ahead. I don't want to cry.
Let me tell you, he's not. He said, I'm joking. He's not joking. We are going to hear about this. For the next probably 10 years or so, we're going to hear about it. Miles. If Miles becomes a starting point guard for the New York Knicks, we're gonna hear about it. Trust me, he's not joking. He's not joking. Andy,
that's great.
Yeah, Coach, man? Because my friends here on the panel, I see they're too shy to ask for that short story that nobody heard. That when we would meet Miles, we could make him blush with that story. Can you spill us a funny thing that happened?
Yeah, I'm saying all this good stuff about Miles. I should be able to give you something that would make you blush. I'll tell you what, if you guys get desperate and you have airtime, you ever invite me back, I'll lead off with a good story that is funny. I'll have to think about that a little bit.
Okay, that sounds great, Coach. We'd love to have you back. After the season gets going and we see what's happening, we'll get a chance to see him, playing some games and things like that. We'd love to, come back and get a couple of reports from you throughout the season on how you think he's doing and where you think he can improve and just the Knicks overall.
I don't know how much I can say about the Knicks, but I will say, guys, thanks for being so welcoming. You made this easy for a guy who doesn't do this kind of thing professionally, so I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Coach. We appreciate you all. Have a great day. Safe trip home. And,
thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, 7:30 p.m., you'll be able to see Deuce McBride and the New York Knicks take on the Indiana Pacers in the first preseason game. Let's make sure we get out there to it.
BK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sob like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.